And so my friends are like legit worried about me at this point because I told them I wasn't doing well, you know? And then some time like had passed. They're like, "How are you doing?" They're like trying to check up on me. And I send them a picture of like a bunch of little animals. Like, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're doing terribly." And I'm like, "You're right." My name is Karen Tran. I am 27 and I'm a miniature artist. I grew up in Burlington, Massachusetts. I live in this house, and the house I grew up in is right there. It's next door. I started this project back in 2022 because I have bipolar disorder. I'm like very open about it. I think it's important to talk about things that are hard. And so during this time period in 2022, I've been medicated for a couple years now, but sometimes it like doesn't work, you know, which is fine. It's just like a part of the process. And I just wasn't on the kind that was helping me during that time period. So I had 2 deaths in my family, and I also was working this job that I like sucked at. And like every week they'd be like, "We're gonna fire you," and I was like, "Ooh, that's not stressful at all." Like, so it was obviously a lot. So because of that, I had this like really intense like amount of stress and then grief and everything. So I really wasn't doing well, and I kind of tripped into a bipolar depressive episode. I kind of had to force myself to do something else besides like, let's say, drinking or anything around that kind of thing. So I started to think that I was gonna make art, right, which is something I always did. I used to have a business where I would make like little hands out of polymer clay, and I was so sick of it. I was like, the feeling of touching polymer clay at this point like sent a shiver down my spine. I'm like, I can't do this. So I thought, and I was like, oh, I actually haven't done needle felting in like 8 years, and I miss it. Like, I haven't done it in a while, but I was like, oh, like let me pick up needle felting again. And it wasn't like I was not doing art during that time period. I was doing, like, I've developed a lot of dexterity in my hands from doing the tiny hands all the time. So after some time had passed, I ended up making my first little animal, and it was like really good. And I was like, ooh, that's motivational. Like, to keep going, that makes me feel better. So I started making like these little animals, and I have this weird thing about me where the worse I feel, the cuter the things come out, which is like kind of weird. So I was like absolutely miserable, like hunched over and like needle felting these like really tiny pigs and like cows and like whatever I could think of. I didn't want to sell them because I was like, oh, if I sold them, like it would be like $20 a pop, and then what? You know, like what is the end game here? I don't want to do that. And so I started thinking, I was like, oh, like, what can I do with these? And I was like, oh, it'd be funny if I hid them and had people find them, like a little scavenger hunt. Like, that'd be fun. So I think in a lot of ways, me not selling them, one, makes them super exclusive. So if you really like one, I don't make the same thing twice. So you really have to leave your house, you know? So that's one thing. So that's why I have this. Isn't it so cute?
I love it.
I made the ears the same too. Oh, it's in the details. Okay. Hopefully they'll recognize the ball. That's the hope. Okay, tiny felted saran wrap.
So I would like to put 3 in Boston Common and 2 in the public garden. Just to make them work for it. I'm so lit. I want to ask you all, done.
The way that I make money is through my classes because it's kind of just like if you really want one, you have to make it yourself, and I can teach you how, you know.
Hiding cute and tiny animals around Boston until I go viral. Day 1.
And then I like started, there was like a trend on TikTok where it'd be like blank days. I do blank thing before I go viral. So it was like hiding little animals in Boston until I go viral sort of thing. And then I was like, oh, like how can I like make this like help other people besides the fact that someone gets like a little treat. But yeah, so I started thinking like small business were a good idea. And after that, I was like, this is great. Like, I can hide them in small businesses. And then I started thinking, like, you know, I know I'm hiding them in these small businesses, but people don't know anything about the small business owners. They're just going in, rummaging, and leaving, you know? And I was like, that's not really helpful. So I was like, oh, how do I forcibly make people learn about the owner? So I was like, oh, let me just do a full interview with the owner and only post like a new animal if you watch like the whole interview sort of thing.
Hi, I'm Jilly Rosnick and I'm the owner of Cured Charcuterie. Cured is the first build-your-own charcuterie board cafe. I lived in
What I like love doing is like little cafes or stores that sell like little trinkets and stuff. Like I like those ones. Yeah, sometimes if I hide them at a cafe. By the way, this is like my favorite cafe ever. So it's Night Moves Cafe, and I love it here. I like know all the people who work here because I come here so often, and I'll like felt and chill and like hang out. But yeah, I just like love the vibes. It's been around for a pretty long time actually, but I think like now like it's definitely had like a resurgence recently. I have found like a lot of people have been coming, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's like busy all the time now, which is crazy. I'm like, good for you guys. But yeah, one of the funny things about it is I hid something. I made a cow coming out of a birthday cake on my birthday last year, and I hid it on my birthday here, and there was a girl who it was also her birthday, which is December 1st, and she had dinner plans and derailed her whole dinner plans just to come here and find it. And she found it, and she found my birthday sculpture on her birthday of a cow coming out of a birthday cake on her birthday on my birthday.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so happy she found it. I was like, that's great. That's serendipity. That's what that is. Yeah. I like how sometimes people tell me, they're like, it felt like I was meant to find this. And I was like, yeah. Yeah.
I put it there for
I put it there for you. Specifically for you. So, right now, usually when I make the little animals, I try to make like just heads, mostly because no one's paying me to do this. And make, I don't know, I just have like a thing about making bodies because then they have to like sit, you gotta make the arms and legs or whatever, so I don't like doing that. So I start off with like a little head and then I add from there. So what I've been doing recently is making their cheeks really fat so that they look really cute. So I'm just adding cheeks to this one. I'm just a really friendly person, and I just hung out with the owner like a while before I even started this. This is like one of the second or third places I've ever hidden one, and I've hidden like 3 or 4 here or something. But no, I just like talking to people and just like knowing random people. So with needle felting, because I can take it out in public and do it, I take like legit full advantage of that. But the thing is, like, I always forget that people have, I'm gonna say like 95% of people have never seen this before. So it's not like I'm like casually, it's basically like if I went to a random place and started chopping wood. Like, that's how weird it is. Because people have never seen it before. And so a lot of people come up to me and they're like, legit, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, like, you haven't heard? So it's kind of tough too, because I'll like ask people on Instagram, like, I'm like, should I make a kangaroo or like a giraffe? And then I like don't go with what they say, which is like not very good. So now I make them guess. I'm like, what am I making? You know, because yeah, so I prefer making whatever animal I want. I don't like promise like specific animals. If I make like 5 cows in a row, that's on you. You know, like that's not my problem. I like making cows. Like, so I keep that for myself for a reason, because it keeps me from wanting, like it keeps me wanting to do it. So when I'm making the little animals, like the motivation I find is kind of like, I want to see where it goes. It's kind of like a curiosity thing. I'm like, I want to push this as far as I can. Mostly because I have started and stopped so many projects. Like, I had like 4 podcasts, and like, it was ridiculous. Like, the amount of stuff that I have done is like crazy. And I don't want to say they failed, but they never took off. And this one is like my baby. Like, I really want this one to succeed. Like, the thing that keeps me going is that I really want to know what's gonna happen. But I do have to be careful though. I always have to remember I'm not like a regular person. Like, I have bipolar, so I have to be wary of that, because sometimes like if I burn myself out, I'll have a depressive episode. So I legit need to be like, okay, I have to stop working on this. Bipolar has actually affected like every part of my life, like literally every minute detail of my life, in a good and a bad way. I know a lot of people don't know a lot about it, and everyone only hears about the bad stuff, because the bad stuff is really bad. But I think the way I like read an article about this, and someone described it as being able to fully feel the full spectrum of human emotion. And I think that is a really good way to put it, because as much as you feel like the depths of hell, like you feel like the most beautiful parts of life too. It's kind of like that Katy Perry song where that, like, you know, do you feel like a plastic bag? But like, that's kind of what it feels like with your emotions and stuff. Like, I remember if the sky was gray, I would legit start crying. Like, I'd be like, oh, like, that's so sad, you know? But then I'd see like a puppy and I would cry because I was so happy, you know? And I was crying like every day. But yeah, it was also hard when I started medication because I didn't get manic anymore. So before, I would wait until that motivation came and then I would do something. But then it never came after I took the medication. I had to relearn how to use like normal motivation and like get myself to do it without that huge manic energy, you know? I didn't like consider myself an artist until I was like 19 or 20, which is kind of funny. I didn't really do art when I was a kid. I was actually pretty bad at drawing and painting, and I didn't really like look into it for a long time, so I didn't consider myself an artist. And then as when I was like 19, the way that the felting thing started is because I was in the midst of like a bipolar mania. I was like felting like crazy, and then I would stop after 6 months and I'd never touch it again. So I was talking to my therapist about it, and I was like, I have so many hobbies. She goes, you're an artist, dude. I go, what? So I started calling myself an artist, and then other people started calling me an artist, which is hilarious. The thing that I want for other people with the little animals, and this is something I've wanted from the beginning, but I really struggle sometimes with getting out of bed when I'm like depressed. I know a lot of other people struggle with that too. Or, you know, if you're just having a really bad day. And I feel like I like basically forcibly gave myself a purpose, like, which is kind of funny if you think about it. I think usually like purpose just comes to you randomly, but I was like, so yeah, like I literally gave myself a purpose in life, which is like hilarious to me. And I kind of wanted to just like give that purpose back in a way that I could. That's like one of the biggest things that I say, like with the project, is just like, just being able to give someone a very small purpose in a tiny package is like really, really helpful for a lot of people. So it's one of those things where like best case scenario, someone having like, I mean, obviously the best case scenario is not having them have a terrible day, but let's say they do have a terrible day and they go on like TikTok, Instagram, and they're like super cute little animal, okay? They see it, they're like, this is down the block from me. I've never been there before. I want to see what it's like. Go there, they find the little animal, enthralled, right? They're like, this is the best day of my life. And they go there, they have a new place they go to. They know the owner now because they watched the video. And then they go home. And it's kind of just like the little tagline that I have is just like adding a little joy to the world. It's just like trying to, it's my way of giving back, really.